Okay, just because I don't want to hold us too long, I think we're gonna get started. And if anybody pops in while we're chatting, we'll just add them to the conversation. Um, but thank you guys for being here, dancers and audience included. My name is Derek McCoy Jr., and I'm the founder and executive artistic director of McCoy Dance Project. I just want to give a round of applause to everyone who has made it to the end of the season. It's crazy that summer is here and we just are completing year 3. The season closes June 30th, but in terms of programming, this was our big wham. And I'm super proud of the work we put in virtually and in person. I just want to go around so that we get to introduce ourselves, name, pronouns, and if you had $1 million, what would be the first thing you would do with it? My name is Derek McCoy Jr. I go by he, him pronouns. If I had $1 million, the first thing I would do with it, pay them student loans. Let's go. Anybody want to go next, or should I call?
I'll go. Hi, my name is Michaela Brandon. My pronouns are she, her. And if I had $1 million, I think the first thing I would do is ask my parents what they want.
I guess I'll go. Hi, my name is Richard Sayama. He, him. I'm originally from Hawaii. So that being said, I'd probably use that money to buy a house in Hawaii because it's expensive, but also donate to all the companies that I've been a part of since I started dancing. That's what I would do.
And Sarah.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Sarah Erickson. I use they, them pronouns. I think I would also, the first thing that came to my mind, I would pay off my student debt, and then so I could give it to other people afterwards.
Come on, Biden.
I'll go. Hi, my name is Mika. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. If I had $1 million, I would probably take my family on a trip somewhere and then give the rest away.
Hi, my name is Maya Addy. I use she, her pronouns. And I think after student loans, I would probably buy a beach house somewhere for my family to use anytime.
Hi, my name is Sue Ishige. I use she, her pronouns. If I had $1 million, I think I would just go travel the world for a while.
Hi, my name is Christian Warner. I use he, him pronouns. And after those student loans, I'm definitely taking a family vacation.
Yeah, financial obligations before fun, always. So you can actually have fun and maybe not work because we need a little bit of rest and restoration. My first question, choreographers, congratulations. Please tell us what inspired you to create these works and how do you feel now that the work is done? I'll go last since I asked, but.
I'll go. I would say that what inspired the work is the current moment that we're living in. And this sort of like pressure that I feel as an artist to define myself and like show up to spaces in a certain way. So basically like the whole premise of the piece is like an exploration of those decisions happening in real time of essentially, as the piece is titled, when do I enter into space and where, what space am I entering into? How do I feel now that it's over? It's never really over. I think that I'm now being reminded of just like the ongoing growth of a thing, right? Like even when the seed blossoms and becomes a flower, there's still like the decay of the flower. So I think we're in that space now of the thing exists. And so like, how do we let it die? Like, do we watch it die? Do we plant something else while it's dying? Like, those are sort of the questions now.
Reborn came from this curiosity about relationships. And as we began to develop, I think it really was just me trying to chase soft and gentle things between people in a time that feels very hard right now. There's a lot of craziness going on, so I think I was just seeking a little comfort. And now being able to watch the piece back and, these dancers are incredible, and seeing them just kind of take that on, it was very rewarding to see it back because I felt comforted. So I think something was achieved. So thank you all again for holding it so well.
I'm sorry. We should have said what names of your works. We'll go back around, but I had the pleasure of choreographing Glimmer in the Dusk and Hush. And I'll talk about both of them, I guess. Glimmer in the Dusk was a little bit more aligned with my discoveries and healing in terms of mental health. I'm very interested in that now. I know a lot of my works kind of touch on those topics about mental health and trauma and very human qualities that we tend to like run away from or hide from other people. So I like to play with what does that look like when we're vulnerable on stage. And I know it's a lot to ask of dancers to kind of tap into that place. But I try to really, when I have time, investigate that space in the studio, and then see what happens when we put that magic on stage, and a very real experience for the dancer, so that the audience can draw what they need out of it in that moment, and for their own personal healing. So yeah, like looking at in a very I don't want to say cartoonish, but a very dramatic and a little bit exaggerated way of looking at anxiety and depression, and this little piece of joy that kind of rests underneath the surface, as we ebb and flow in between joyous moments and moments that are not so joyous. So yeah, I kind of had this, through that concept or that intention, I thought of this image of Pandora's box. And with the box, I love Greek mythology, I love Egyptian mythology. So like the idea that when the box was open, all of this chaos was unearthed or bestowed into the world. And at the end of the story, you open the box again, and the only thing that was able to bring all the chaos back inside was hope. So that's kind of the glimmer in the dusk. The dusk is the darkness that is looming, and then this little piece of joy and hope is what brings everything back together. So that's kind of what the box represents, literally and figuratively. You kind of miss it in the film, but there's lights on the inside of the box. And that causes Mika, the dancer, to sort of be overwhelmed and oversaturated with this joyous and out of control movement. And then the closing of the box is all the darkness going back inside. Yeah. And then Hush came out of Hush was inspired by These Stars Are Something Heavy, which was inspired by the murder of George Floyd. So looking back at that summer, I had a little bit of awakening in terms of my own identity and my own place in the world. And I told myself that I wouldn't stay silent any longer. So I chose to create These Stars Are Something Heavy and allow us to look at identity, look at race in a new way, and also but also showcase the paradox in liberty and justice for all. Then 2021, I was selected as a JC DARF for the Nimbus Arts Festival, Jersey City Dancers Artist Fund. And it gave me a residency to choreograph 24 hours. And we did it in, I think, a month and a half or a month. It was really quick turnaround. But that's where Hush was created. And I had this idea to create a sort of character-driven work that was historical, but also took pride in where we are today. And so that kind of birthed Hush, which was originally titled Hush Now While I Speak. And there was these 4 characters who are now claiming their power, claiming their time. You see the first half that they're representing these 4 legendary or historic, iconic characters: Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells, Alice Paul, and Rosa Parks, very instrumental to history. And then we kind of transition in this middle section to present day, where we are today, where there's a little more freedom, or what does freedom look like when we are past all of the oppressions. And so I was really kind of looking for a platform to show that contrast of the progress through history. And it's definitely one of my favorite works. I'm like dancing every time, and especially in the second section, I'm like bobbing. Yes, I know the choreography, but the music and the vibe, the smiles are always so fulfilling to see. And I hope everybody always I know it's a hard piece, but I hope everyone always feels that drive or that pump and rhythm as you're going through the work. My next question is for Michaela. This is your first time creating a full solo on a dancer. You talked about it in your promo video, but can you tell us some things you discovered during the process and what it taught you?
Choreographing a full-length solo is essentially like birthing a child. Because it's just you and the dancer. And so everything that flows out of you flows into them. And so you see it very clearly, as opposed to having multiple dancers in the space all contributing to the telling of a story. To just have one dancer in the space embodying the story is a very intimate and beautiful thing. And you're creating it beginning, middle to end, all in however many minutes or so. So I definitely learned a little bit more about the freedom of choice in that process of do you tell the story from beginning to end, or is this moment in time just one moment of the journey that you're allowing the audience to be a part of? Yeah, it definitely, working with just one dancer gave me an opportunity to invest in the journey of the piece more than I think I've ever been able to when I've had to work with multiple dancers in space. It's a whole different it's a whole different set of things to juggle and to navigate. So I appreciated the process, because I appreciated really working that closely with the concept that I developed. Thanks, Sue.
It's very intimate. And so I'm going to pass that to Sue, and I want you to comment on how was that process for you being on the other side, a solo being created on you, original concept. Yeah, give us a little insight of where your head was as you were learning it. How did the choreography feel in your body, and just basically your meditations on the solo now that you've seen it and not just performed it.
All right. So, it's a lot of questions. Okay. Well, first of all, it was so amazing to work with Michaela because Derek, Michaela, and I were all in the same class, and like Michaela and I would often like improv together, and like we have choreographed pieces together at the school. So it was familiar, but also unfamiliar because now Michaela was the choreographer and I was, responding to her ideas. It was, sorry, I like lost my train of thought. Well, can you remind me of the questions?
What was the process like for you being on the other side, and what were your meditations and reflections throughout the work now that you're on the other side? You've seen the work. How does that make you feel, and what do you think of reflecting back on the process?
Okay. First question about the choreographic process. I feel like it was pretty like swift. Like we had like 2 rehearsals, and I feel like Michaela like was like, here's the idea, here it is. And like we had like 5 minutes like after an hour, which was so crazy. And then from then, like we had the ability to then dive into like textures, ideas, like intentions, which was very great for me, as sometimes I like to just float through movement. And Michaela was like, wait a minute, like let's be a little human, more real. And that was for me really helpful to learn, I guess, and to like go back and unlearn like the academia in my movement. So it was challenging, but really good. And like Michaela was so helpful in like catching those things and habits. Seeing the piece was really cool because first of all, we choreographed it to be on the stage, but then also in a film. So to see it, certain moments in the solo shifted with like the camera perspective. It was really interesting. I liked it because then we got to focus on, like the lower half of the body sometimes, or like close-ups and like things like that aren't really accessible in the space, and also very intimidating to watch myself. Yeah, I also totally agree with what Michaela, I think you were saying like earlier on during this talk back about how like a piece kind of never ends, or like I guess the process never ends. I feel like I want to keep like touching and thinking and like processing it as I continue on, and like see more in life and grow more. It would be nice to touch back on this after more personal experiences. Yeah. Did I answer everything? Okay.
Yes, that was great. Thank you. Let's move over to Mr. Warner. Christian, what are you exploring in your movements as a choreographer, and how did you bring that into the process to create Reborn?
I feel as though in recent years, I'm really trying to lean into unknown boundaries in terms of physically. From my upbringing, I can be a pretty muscle dominant type of dancer, very haya-ish. And there's something to be said about locating those powerful engines. But now I'm trying to lean into more of a billowing quality. Like what happens if you can, what are the extremities if you lean in with gentleness or easing into things, and trying to turn the frequency up from that way, from that approach. I think it was very hard, or I was intimidated at first to know if I was going to be able to articulate all of those ideas to six other people in the room. But somehow, I don't know, we found a wave. And for me, I think I learned when there was to really submit to the journey of it, you know. I didn't necessarily know when we arrived until maybe we got to the stage and I was like, oh, okay. I feel it. And for me, in the past, I've definitely have been someone to try to be very strict about how I guide the wave, but this was an opportunity for me to experience letting go a little bit, just giving it to them and seeing what they wanted to do with it. Obviously, with trying to hold the tether of the intention, but I learned that beautiful things can happen from not knowing, and just kind of stepping back if you can articulate the energy in a right and in an effective way, I guess I should say. Yeah, hope that answered the question.
Yes, thank you. Don't hop off mute yet, because the next part's for you. Talk to us for a little bit. Can you give us a little more insight into Reborn? So we're starting to now dissect it a little more. And the two sections. The first half feels more grounded, dynamic, and strong in the beginning. And then it shifts to this kind of romantic or swing feel, definitely musically. What was your thinking there in terms of that sort of midway point shift? And then the second part of that your piece, the second section feels more airy and suspended. So we definitely see this sort of, we love this word this season. This is our season word is decay, but we see this decay kind of happen, where everything is really strong and built in an edifice, and then it sort of crumbles down into this softness. Can you talk about that transition in between the two sections, but pseudo third section?
Yeah, so the first half of the piece, I think that I was quite honestly just trying to chase things that feel good. I didn't want to think too deeply about it. I was thinking about conversations of relationship dynamics that I've had with certain individuals in my life and also drawing on my personal experiences, but trying to keep it first response to what feels good and also what I'm trying to locate between this community of people. Um, and just understand the complexities of each interaction between each person on stage, whether it was a long interaction or a short interaction, just something kind of like a playground of things going on. The second piece came, the music was a little bit of an accidental mistake as I was trying to find something to conjure. I knew that this second chapter for me, I was interested in what was in between the lines of affection and relationship. So that music that you hear in the second half is the first, I think, 10 seconds of the first song of the work, just slowed down over the course of 6 minutes. And all of that music and movement that's existing in the slowed down version of that track, it kind of made me think of when I think about the depths of some of my relationships. There are things carrying me that I feel that I didn't even realize until maybe later on. Like I met someone and I didn't realize that I'm still carrying this energy, or there are things that just help me ebb and flow through my experience of life. And also with this idea of relationship between people, we can be so cruel with each other, but we're all connected to this one thing. This energy is supporting us all, and so I wanted to try to chase this feeling of just slowing down for a moment and remembering how we entered this world all the same. We will all leave this world the same, and the in between. There's an opportunity to experience some really beautiful and depthful moments, but you got to slow down and just be a little gentle. And yeah, I guess that's what's coming to me from, especially after seeing it again. That's all I guess I have to offer in this moment.
Thank you for that. And you talked about the sort of relationships that inspired you to create these little vignettes or moments that are passing throughout your work. But can the dancers in Christian's work please talk about the relationships that relationship it created? How do I structure this? But talk about the relationships that Christian was inspired by, created the relationships within you on stage together. What was the relationship dynamics between you guys on stage personally? Now hearing that, but also the concept wise, what developed in that? Go ahead, Maya.
I think a lot of trust was put into the work naturally because we did have to lean in and approach the movement with such gentleness, as Christian mentioned. And because the movement, you never knew how it was going to go. Each time we did it truly was different. So you really did have to trust whoever you were dancing with, or just the weight that was going to be shifted or where it was going to go. I mean, it was nice that there was so many changes because it kept us thinking and moving and growing in different ways. But I think there was a sense of trust that really, I want to say, existed within the work and kind of grew the more we rehearsed. And by the time we were on the stage, it was just there. I mean, I could have done the piece with my eyes closed and felt comfortable with anyone, which is nice to be in that position.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add on to that before we move on to the next question?
Yeah, I could add on. I think just adding on with what Maya said about trust, I think Christian was really able to create a warm and also vulnerable environment for us to really explore deeply emotionally, and which then translates to movement wise, on how we could explore different relationships with each other. And I don't think that would have been possible without the guidance and the directorship of the of Christian. So I really appreciate. I looked forward to each rehearsal, and it was really fun. And I definitely was able to find new discoveries with how different vulnerabilities and different emotional connections with different dancers could alter my movements and change the way I like move in space and with the dancers. So I thought having so many different connections with Tevin or like Sue or the rest of the group was like really interesting. So it was a really all about valuable experience for me to do that piece.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. This is a question as many dancers as possible can answer this, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about new visions, but share with us some of your favorite moments this season and what you will be taking away now that we're at the end of this season.
I'll go first.
Oh, Sue, come on.
Honestly, my favorite thing was this cast, and then also everyone involved, Derek, Michaela, Christian. Like, it was just so much fun and so nice to be in the studio with you all. It was just, yeah, every rehearsal was very fun and like healthy and like a good space. So thank you. That was great. Very healing. And we all looked great.
I think I have two favorite moments. One was our very last rehearsal for Glimmer, which was literally when we finished the piece. Everything was kind of coming down to the wire, and like the first time we ran it all the way through, I looked around at everyone, and there's just this like sigh of relief from everyone, and but also this just sense of awe and wonder that like we did the damn thing, that like it all came together, and all of our hard work was about to pay off, and that was just such a rewarding moment to experience with everyone. And my other favorite moment was actually the first time that I saw Christian's piece during the tech rehearsal. And it was a chance for me to also just watch everyone else in the company because I wasn't a part of that piece. So I was really able to just sit back and enjoy the beauty that you all bring as artists. And it was so inspiring. And I always love working with McCoy Dance Project, and it's always such a pleasure. So yeah.
Okay. I know one of my favorite moments was actually the workshop that we did back, is that end of February, probably, or was it? Yeah, I'd say it was sometime in February before rehearsal started. But we learned some of the duet that was in Glimmer in the Dusk and phrase work that ended up being in the third section. And just to see the growth from then to now is just insane to see. And I'm just so proud of everyone. So I think that's a moment that I'll cherish. But also just getting to know everyone. And, if there's a rehearsal to have on the weekends, it's this.
That's kind of crazy just thinking about like where all of this started. Yeah, that workshop, like we literally just had that first phrase from the third section and then just grew. It's like dance is crazy. Dance is crazy. I literally am in awe. And I still haven't fully processed what you all did on that stage and what the choreographers have made. I'm in la la limbo right now. I'm like, what did I watch? What just happened these past 3 months? So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do some processing now that we're wrapping up. But yes, I'm definitely proud of all of you.
I feel like there are so many moments, it's hard to pick just one or two. I think being in a group of such kind people, for whatever reason, has been very rare. Like everyone is so kind and so respectful and so full of love. It's like every weekend I come and see this group, and it's just like a little pocket of sunshine that I get to come into. And it kind of rejuvenates me for the next week ahead until I can see all of you again. And I think that's just in general, and being on the side of the stage and everyone being so supportive and like getting each other's energy up and laughing if we need it, or like breathing together, just like having everybody so in tune with each other the entire process, I think allowed me to be vulnerable and be myself, I guess, in the space, which is really a wonderful feeling. So thank you for all of that, all of you.
Was that everybody? I so lost track. Okay. Okay, we're almost running out of time. So I have 3 questions left, and maybe that'll carry us to 9:15. This is, well, Tevin and Khalid and Shayna are not here. But I guess, Richard, this question will be for you. This is your first time working with MDP. Please share with us the pieces that you were in and how has working with the company dancers and choreographers been?
Yeah, so I'm so glad to have been part of this. First of all, I got a message in Germany right before my show, and then I was like, "Oh, cool! Let me check this guy out." Like right before the show, I'm like, and I saw some of the dancers, and I recognized some people, but also saw the choreography, and I'm like, "Wow!" Like, damn! Like that was like that's what I said, and then I went on stage feeling inspired. So carrying that, getting to be in the rehearsal process with each dancers was just amazing. I'm really inspired with each person. I think I have like a little bit of inferiority when it comes to contemporary, just because I don't do it so often. I'm a very modern jazz kind of oriented person. Not that I'm saying I love that the most, but it's just like it's where I just landed in companies wise. So, but I love contemporary, but to see so many amazing potentials and talents, it was made me kind of like insecure. So in the beginning, I was a little bit more stiff and like kind of hesitant and really letting go. But then as the process went on with like the guidance and directorship of not only the dancers, but Derek and Christian and even Michaela when she stepped in for rehearsal one time, I was just felt much more comfortable and willing to let go of this like hesitation and like lock, if you will. So I felt myself really letting go towards the end. I think it could go even further still, but it was nice to know that I could make that step, and that step would not have been possible if it weren't for the community of MDP. So I'm really grateful for that.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Yeah, you did an amazing job to see the progress from the beginning to the end. It was amazing. And I know me and Michaela would come back and be like, Richard today was killing it. The energy and your daring spirit to just take all of it on, it really benefited you, and I'm excited to continue seeing where your journey goes and all of the styles. Yeah, because you really did, you killed it. And I'm very grateful that you joined us.
I'm very glad to. Thank you.
Similar question, but for our veteran dancers, Maya, Sarah, Sue, and Mika, this is your second time, all of you. I mean, Sue started with us in 2019. But are there any differences you noticed from the first time working with MDP versus this time?
Hi. Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, Derek, I've seen you grow. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And for context, in 2019 also, this was, you said before, like MDP was actually like what it is now, but we were rehearsing, I think, in almost like a classroom with like, what was it, a couple of dancers to live music, which was really, really cool. But like, it was like one of those, I don't know, it was very surreal. It was crazy. It was like your first, I think, choreographic job post dance. And Derek was like, hey, like, do you want like, be a part of this? And of course I was like, yes, absolutely. Like always, if Derek asks, then yes. But it was very different. The choreography, the process, I feel like, I don't know, Derek, you always change. Every single piece you've made has been very different. So I don't know if it's how to like, like conceptualize the change, but like, I think because also for more context, I have danced in Derek's piece since my sophomore year of college. So it's been quite a many years and many pieces. And every single piece has shifted and changed. They've all been amazing, of course, but like, the first piece was super balletic, and then the next piece, was a little bit more contemporary. And then now he used to also, you used to come into the space with the steps like ready. Like you were like, all right, I have the movement, here it is. And then we would do it. And then now I feel like you come into the space and you choreograph on us on the spot. I'm sure you have an idea before you come in, of course, but like, it's very like, I feel a lot more trusting towards the dancers. Like I feel like you trust your dancers, and it shows in that process, because like you can't not trust us if you like in this kind of process of coming into the space, looking at us and being inspired, or like creative in the space. So that's been an interesting growth, I think, to see. And yeah, also it's great you had a whole costume designer, your own stage and lighting. I don't know, it's just like, yeah, like this was it. So congratulations. And that was a long spiel of saying, yeah, Derek has grown so much.
Thank you, Erica. We see you in here. Yeah. The costumes were great.
Yeah, proud of you.
I will say that this process has been very different. I mean, the last project I did with you was a film, so, and it was still during the height of the pandemic. So the first half of that whole entire process was all virtual. And that was a bit of a challenge for me learning this solo in my kitchen. And it was very frustrating at times. But then we finally were able to come together in a studio space and finish the project. And that was so amazing and so rewarding. And I do also think that what Sue was saying, how the trust, there's been so much more trust and a shift in trust, because I knew you, Derek. We worked together, we danced together as, you know, colleagues, as friends. And I, of course, trusted you completely in that. But it was different coming into a space where, like, you were the choreographer and I was the dancer. And I think that the second time around with New Visions, that the trust in that relationship dynamic was so much deeper, and it was very exciting to explore this process the second time around with you. So yeah, it's been such a journey.
I'll go. Um, I think, well, I also started working with Derek my sophomore year when he was a senior. So I think there's just been a lot of maturity that has happened throughout the years. And obviously, we started out as students. And so naturally, it's just a different relationship and the way we work and maybe what the work is for. And so to now have your own company and leading your own show, and this being the first live show, I think there's just so much more meaning behind what each piece represents, or just the way we worked. We're all now professional artists, obviously students at heart, wanting to learn and grow all the time, but we are professional dancers now, so we are there for you, specifically for you, and want to just make the work represent you in the best way possible. So I feel like there's just a sense of maturity that changed the process for me from when I was 19 to now 23. It's just life, so much life in between.
um, During the live performance, I was thinking back to one of our first classes. I think it was with Francesca Harper, and she was like asking about like our goals and things in school freshman year, and you were like, I'm gonna direct my own company. And I believed it, and now it's like actually happening, and you're doing it, and it's successful and beautiful and amazing. And just seeing like that many years of growth and change, and like you're doing it, is I'm just really proud of you and happy for you. And I feel really honored to be a part of it. Um, um, I I think the biggest difference, at least from my perspective in the rehearsal process, from working on Hush to working in for New Visions, was the distance between like the height of the pandemic to where we are now. I feel like we're all navigating spaces much differently. And I can feel that from you and from myself and from the other dancers. And I feel like in New Visions, we were able to kind of go into this new dimension of being with people, which was really beautiful and rewarding to feel. It didn't feel, I don't really know what the right word is. yeah, I don't know what the right word is right now, but I think that's all I have to say on that right now. But yeah, it's been really wonderful to be a part of the whole process.
Thanks, guys. That's I always love hearing this part because we don't really get enough time to actually talk when we're building work. And then even in the production part of it, we don't get enough time to talk about what's happening, and then it all comes to a close. We spend all of this time grueling, blood, sweat, and tears, time waking up tired and getting up and doing it again for a couple shows, and then it's over, and then there's a lot to process. And then we do that over and over again. All the shows, we're talking about, a decade is coming up since everybody started dancing with me, which is kind of crazy. It's you think about what can change in that time. Like I just said a decade, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like it's true, the where my works were back then versus where they are now are totally different. And I appreciate that my works are always different, because it's not necessarily, I do have an aesthetic and a style, but the choreography and the movement is guided by the concept and intention. It's not guided by a certain way I like to move. And that's where we tap into our core pillar of authenticity. And integrity, because we want to make sure that the movement is most accurate for what we're trying to say. So I wouldn't do a classical ballet piece if I'm talking about a work about race or blackness. That wouldn't be a work that would speak accurately to what we're trying to say. So yeah, I'm still figuring it out, and I'm excited to continue exploring what the movement shifts into. And I do have a lot of fun with you guys in the studio, so I'm just grateful to always be pushing you guys and pushing myself. I push you so I can push myself, and I know that all things are possible when we do it together. So it's truly been a pleasure to continue inviting you guys into the project, because you are my family. I'm gonna answer question in chat. Hi, Dominic. Those you don't know, Dominic attended the Nimbus Arts Center Intensive when I directed it last year. And I kind of took Dominic under my wing. And Dominic just got into a whole bunch of schools. Congratulations, but Dominic committed to Ailey Fordham BFA program. So Dominic will be joining the Ailey fam. Whoop, whoop. Dominic says, hello, you all did amazing. I was wondering how the choreographic process was for Mr. Derek. How was it to choreograph duet portions with the frame and Glimmer in the Dust? That is a really good question. So a little background. When I originally envisioned Glimmer in the Dusk, and not New Visions, there were supposed to be 7 6-foot-tall mirrors that rolled around stage. And I guess that's what kind of morphed into this Pandora's box, because we were supposed to be analyzing and working with our reflections in these mirrors. And so that was like the mirror was supposed to be the inner being, the inner struggle. And I wanted to play with that on stage and have dancers duet with them and go in and out of them, and very drama, very lights. I love those things. I think that's my aesthetic, is like drama and passion. But we didn't have storage space for that. I had to think realistically, like, where am I going to keep those things? And then I'm gonna have to take them on the train, and how am I going to get them to this studio? Because we rehearsed at 3 different studios: Gibney, Mark Morris, and Battery Dance. And Battery Dance has those 5 stories of stairs. So I was like, how am I gonna get 7 6-foot-tall mirrors up 5 stories of stairs with no elevator and no storage unit? So that got axed and it became this picture frame. Not to say that the work will continue. I would love to explore it again over the years, bring it back and see how it grows, and to eventually bring in those mirrors and see how that changes the dynamic. But this picture frame became a little more symbolic, and it gave us a challenge. The mirror was the picture frame was a challenge. We originally started choreographing without it, like, oh, you guys will have a picture frame and you're gonna do this. So we're trying to figure out how to make that real. I think Sarah had the circle therabands, and we were playing with that at first. And we're like walking around like, okay, what can we use? We can use a chair, or can we use like the ballet bar? Like, what can we use to pretend to have a picture frame? And then when we got the picture frame, for me at least, it felt unsafe because it's metal, and it's a little flimsy. It does a little wivy wave when you move around with it. We'll fix that next time it comes. We do this piece, but yeah, and it's not so smooth on certain parts. So I think that I had to think a lot about how can I make it work without injuring my dancers. So like when Mika's in the picture, inside of the picture frame, and Maya and Sarah are dancing around, and I'll be like reminding like, don't hit Mika, because it's 4 feet by 3 feet, but it does get really tight when you're also trying to dance in it, and then the picture frame is moving around you, or you yourself are trying to like maneuver yourself through it. So it was very interesting. I'm actually very in awe of the choreography that came out. I think we got really creative with certain things, and I can't take all the credit for it. I mean, I gave the steps, but it does take some craftsmanship to make it look good, because yeah, the picture frame was a challenge. So I commend Mika, Sarah, and Maya for making the picture frame look gorgeous on stage. Dancers are superheroes. That is right, Michaela. For our last question, and maybe we'll go around if anybody else has any last thoughts, but I want to ask the Hush dancers, because it is, I think it's pretty rare now in this stage of the game, in this era of contemporary dance or dance in general, that we see character-based work. I think the trend in the field is starting to be more abstract, and not historical in nature, about a physical person in history that has lived or is currently living. We see a lot of that in Ailey works. We see a lot of that in Graham works, or yeah, I think character-driven work that is directly scripted or has been lived. What was your experience? What was the experience like dancing in a character-driven work versus works that are abstract in movement and concept?
I can speak to that first. I really enjoyed the character work. The first time around, I found audiobooks and I listened to them on all my commutes about Alice Paul, and was trying to learn as much as I could about her. I really enjoyed the fact that I could learn about somebody in history and their relationships and their relationship to history, and then also be able to use that as a way to learn more about myself, instead of in more abstract works. It feels like sometimes it's very like internal. It's all about like diving deeper into myself. It was an interesting way to kind of circle back to that same idea and grow as a person and an artist, but to also be gaining other knowledge of other people. So that was exciting for me. And then I was happy that we were able to do it again, or Shannon and I were able to do it again with a new group. And I was able to like further develop that. It felt like, especially after watching the first few times we performed it and feeling it and having a certain level of understanding, and then to be able to have some time pass and then revisit it, it felt like it was a lot more in my body, and it felt I was understanding things a lot better, which was cool to feel on stage.
I would say something that was really interesting for me in the process was not only I was not an original cast member. So coming into this piece, not only thinking about the character of Rosa Parks and who she was as a person, but also watching videos and seeing how the previous dancer, how Michaela chose to represent those ideas, and then having to kind of reconcile with myself, okay, what parts were Rosa, what parts were Michaela, and what parts are going to be me, and having to figure all of that out and like combine that and organize it all for myself to figure out what I wanted to bring to it, was really interesting and really different for me. I haven't done a lot of character work recently, so it was really fun to get to do that. And yeah, just really nice to kind of dive into something different and something new.
I think there's just like a certain level of authenticity that has to go into the work when you are portraying a certain person. Um, and that just made the work more interesting for me because I had to focus on more of the character, not the dance steps, even though I was also new to this work and learning the whole piece and the amount of time at time did feel stressful, but knowing that the steps was like the second thing that was important. It's really who you're representing was most important. Kind of calmed me down in certain ways, and then in the second section, being able to then bring out my own personality just made it even more enjoyable. So I think that's the difference between character work and more abstract work is the authenticity that comes into it.
You can't hide as much as as you would want to in a character driven work, because it's the character. They are lived, they have been they've lived, and you can't change the storyline, so you have to bring yourself to that time period, that mindset, that understanding of life. And then we call the second section the freedom section, because now we have been freed, and it is colorful and it's bright and it's you today, not a character. So yeah, it was great to watch that and also see new dancers do it. I think this is the first work the company has done that has been restaged on new dancers, which we'll eventually start doing more as we continue going. So that's a goal of mine, to have a new concert, which you have new visions, and then you have repertory and restages, which is all works of the past. So I'm excited to bring back some works from 2017 all the way until now, and see what they would look like now that we have time to actually revisit them and adapt them to where we are today. So before we wrap up, I want to get in Dominic's last question for Christian. How do you choreograph those trios where the dancers work off of each other's weight?
I mean, these dancers are just one super incredible, but I think the simplest answer is trust. I think that they were able to find a trust within each other to be able to give a little bit more than maybe at first glance was possible. Because I do recall in the rehearsal process at various moments just being like, like Maya like actually dropped. Like you fine, she gonna catch you. But it takes time to, especially as dancers, we're so pulled up and tethered for a very good reason. But being able to also trust that and let the dancing do its thing and actually allow yourself to fall, it takes practice. And they were able to tap into that. We captured a really beautiful moment. So, but it was all them.
Yes, definitely the art of letting go. So unfortunately, this is time to say goodbye and good night. I really enjoyed talking and working with you all, and I know you all, but to continue exploring and learning more about you, and as you grow and transition, and we all become more of who we're supposed to be and who we're going to be. I'm super grateful, and I want you guys all to know that I love you dearly. And I'm always here for you, and I can't wait to work with you on the next one. And to continue as MDP grows, because we're growing very, very fast. And hopefully we'll be on tour soon. um but yeah, please have a good night, and I will be in communication about the cast party. That's a tradition. Thank you for coming, Erica and Dominic and Rashay, and I will see everyone very, very soon.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Night.